It was a tranquil day on the coast of the small town of Clearwater, where the blue sky merged with the endless ocean, creating a scene of peace and serenity. The gentle wind rustled the palm leaves, and the sound of the waves softly breaking on the shore echoed like a lullaby. John, a middle-aged man, was on his boat, something he did regularly to relax and escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life. He had a face marked by time, with eyes that held stories of a life full of challenges and achievements. On that day, however, he was alone at sea, seeking the tranquility that only the ocean could provide. John was a simple man with a life that many would consider ordinary. He worked as a mechanic in the town, always with grease-stained hands but a clean and kind heart. He had a loving wife, Maria, and a 10-year-old son, Tommy, who was his greatest joy. Despite his seemingly peaceful routine, John carried an invisible burden, the shadow of a traumatic event from his past. Years ago, he lost his younger brother, Henry, in a tragic car accident. Since then, the ocean had become his refuge, a place where he could connect with the memories of his brother, who had always loved the sea. On that particular day, John was more thoughtful than usual. As he navigated towards the horizon, he felt a growing unease inside him, as if something was about to happen. He looked at Henry's photo, which he always carried with him, and whispered a silent prayer, asking for peace and answers. Little did he know that that quiet afternoon on the sea would change his life forever. The sun was already beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and red when something unexpected happened. A stronger wave hit John's boat, causing him to lose his balance. In an instant, he found himself plunging into the cold water, his body sinking rapidly as the surface drifted away. Panic gripped his heart, but deep down, there was a strange calm, as if he were ready to accept his fate. As John struggled to stay afloat, his boat drifted further away, leaving him alone and vulnerable in the vast ocean. His body was tired, and he knew his chances of survival were slim. But even in the midst of despair, he felt a presence beside him, something that sparked a glimmer of hope in the darkness. Suddenly, a shadow appeared beneath the water, moving with grace and speed. John could barely believe his eyes when he saw a dolphin emerge beside him, its eyes shining with an intelligence and kindness that seemed almost human. The dolphin began to swim around John, as if trying to comfort him, its gentle vocalizations echoing in the stillness of the sea. John, exhausted and on the brink of despair, felt a tear roll down his face. It was as if that dolphin was there to save him, to offer a second chance he never imagined receiving. The dolphin, sensing John's weakness, moved even closer, allowing him to grab onto its fin. With surprising strength, the dolphin began to swim, taking John towards the shore. Meanwhile, Maria, at home, began to feel a growing sense of worry. John never stayed out this long, and the silence of his absence was deafening. She tried calling him, but to no avail. A dark premonition gripped her heart, and she knew something was wrong. She grabbed Tommy and rushed to the harbor, desperately hoping her husband would appear. Time seemed to stretch as John fought to stay conscious. Every second felt like an eternity, but the dolphin kept swimming tirelessly, as if it knew the importance of this mission. John, now drained of energy, let himself be carried, fully trusting that mysterious creature that seemed to have appeared out of nowhere to save him. When they finally reached the shore, John could barely believe he was safe. The dolphin left him in the shallow water, close to the sand, and in a final act of affection, nudged his hand gently as if saying goodbye. John, with tears in his eyes, whispered a "thank you" before being engulfed by the soft waves and pulled to the shore. Maria spotted John's body on the sand and ran towards him, with Tommy close behind. When she reached him, her heart clenched at the sight of her husband's state, but realizing he was still breathing, hope rekindled in her chest. She hugged him with all her strength, thanking God for bringing him back. John, still weak, whispered to Maria about the dolphin, about how it had saved him. She looked at the ocean, hoping to see something, but all she found was the calm, serene sea, as if nothing had happened. Yet, she knew there was more to this story, something they could never fully explain. And so, with a heart full of gratitude, John was taken to the hospital, where he began to recover slowly. But in his heart, he knew he would never see the ocean the same way again. He had been given a new chance, an opportunity to live and love even more, thanks to an unexpected savior who appeared when he needed it most. The days passed slowly after John's rescue. He was home, surrounded by his family and friends, but his mind was still trapped in that moment at sea. Although he was grateful to be alive, something inside him had changed. The trauma of the accident and the experience of nearly losing his life left him shaken, bringing back painful memories he had tried to bury for years. During the day, John struggled to return to his routine. He went back to work at the garage, but every sound of the engine, every tool he used, brought back memories he preferred to forget. At night, he fought to sleep, his thoughts turning into nightmares where he relived the moment he fell from the boat, sinking into the sea, unable to breathe. And always, in his dreams, the dolphin appeared, a symbol of hope and a mystery he couldn't fully understand. Maria watched her husband with growing concern. She saw the change in his eyes, the way he seemed distant, even when he was present. She tried to talk to him, tried to make him open up about what he was feeling, but John was a reserved man, used to carrying his burdens alone. "I'm fine," he would say, but Maria knew something was very wrong. Tommy, on the other hand, was fascinated by the story of the dolphin. He told all his friends at school how his father had been saved by a dolphin, describing the creature as a marine hero. But deep down, Tommy also noticed the change in his father. He didn't fully understand it, but he sensed that something had shifted on that trip to the sea, something that made his father's smile more rare and his hugs tighter. One night, when the house was silent and Maria and Tommy were already asleep, John got out of bed, unable to calm his mind. He went out to the yard, where he could hear the distant sound of the waves breaking on the beach. There, under the starry sky, he felt a deep loneliness. He sat down on the cold sand, looking at the horizon, trying to find peace, but all he felt was a sharp pain in his chest. "Why?" he whispered into the void. "Why was I saved? Why did he save me?" The questions consumed him, and the lack of answers left him feeling lost. John knew he couldn't keep living like this, but he didn't know how to find his way back to normalcy. At that moment, something unexpected happened. Out of the darkness, he heard a familiar sound, the soft clicking of a dolphin. John lifted his head and looked out at the sea, and there, in the distance, he saw a shadow moving in the water. The dolphin was there, as if it had sensed his pain and come to him. John slowly stood up and walked towards the water. He stopped at the edge of the sea, feeling the waves lapping at his feet. The dolphin swam closer, its fins cutting through the surface of the ocean with grace. John didn't know if he was imagining things, but he felt a deep connection with that creature, as if the dolphin understood his pain, as if it was there to offer comfort. "I don't know what to do," John confessed out loud, as if the dolphin could hear and understand his words. "I'm lost." The dolphin continued to swim around him, its gentle vocalizations filling the air with a soothing melody. John closed his eyes, trying to absorb the moment, trying to find some clarity amidst the confusion in his mind. But before he could think of anything else, a memory hit him like a wave, the accident that claimed his brother Henry years ago. Henry had always been the adventurous one in the family, the most courageous and impulsive. He loved the sea and dreamed of becoming a sailor, but his fate was cut short by a tragic accident. John never managed to overcome the loss of his brother, and the feeling of guilt had haunted him ever since. He blamed himself for not doing more, for not being there to save Henry. Now, standing at the edge of the ocean, John felt the weight of that guilt intensify. Perhaps, he thought, the dolphin that saved him had some connection to Henry, a sort of sign that he needed to make peace with the past. But how could he do that? How could he move on when his heart was so full of pain? The dolphin, sensing John's inner turmoil, did something unexpected. It swam even closer to the shore, almost touching the sand, and then made a graceful leap out of the water, spinning in the air before diving back into the ocean. That moment was so full of beauty and grace that it pulled John out of his dark thoughts. He couldn't help but smile, even if only for a brief moment. It was in that smile, in that small moment of joy, that John realized something important. The dolphin was there to remind him of the beauty of life, to show him that even in the darkest times, there is always light. John didn't know how, but he felt that he needed to seek out that light. He needed to find a path to healing, both for himself and his family. The dolphin made another leap, as if saying goodbye, before swimming back into the depths of the ocean. John stood there, alone again, but this time, with a small spark of hope ignited in his heart. He knew the journey ahead would be difficult, but he was determined to find the answers he had been searching for. With that thought, he returned home, where Maria was still sound asleep. He lay down beside her, holding her hand tightly. In that moment, he decided that he would no longer let the pain control his life. He needed to live. He needed to find a new purpose, something that would help him overcome the past and embrace the future. And so, the second segment of the story ends, with John preparing to face his inner demons and discover the true meaning of the miraculous rescue he experienced. But the road ahead is still uncertain, and the challenges he will face may be greater than he imagines. The following days were marked by a subtle yet significant change in John. The encounter with the dolphin that night had left a deep impression on his heart, a spark of hope he hadn't felt in a long time. He knew he couldn't continue ignoring the weight he carried and that he needed to confront his fears and sorrows head-on. But the path to healing would not be easy, and he was about to face one of the greatest challenges of his life. John began spending more time at sea, not seeking isolation but searching for answers. He became a familiar figure on the shores of Clearwater, often seen staring at the horizon or sailing his boat, as if waiting for something. For Maria, this change was worrying, but she also saw a light in John's eyes that had been missing since the accident. Even though he didn't share all his thoughts, she sensed that he was on a journey to find peace. One afternoon, while sailing in the calm waters, John decided to go further than usual. He headed towards an area where the ocean became deeper and the silence was almost absolute. There, he felt a calmness he hadn't experienced in a long time. He anchored the boat and sat down, allowing his thoughts to flow freely, without haste or pressure. As he sat there, an old memory came back to him, a conversation he had with Henry when they were young. They were sitting on the beach, watching the sunset, and Henry, with his adventurous spirit, was talking about how the sea was a place full of mysteries, and that he believed, in some way, the ocean had a soul. John had laughed at the idea back then, but now, so many years later, he was beginning to understand what Henry meant. The sea, with all its vastness and depth, truly felt like a place where one could connect with something deeper, a kind of spirituality that John had never recognized before. Suddenly, a movement in the water caught his attention. He looked over the side of the boat and saw something that made his heart race. The dolphin was back, swimming gently around the boat. John felt a mix of surprise and joy, as if he were reconnecting with an old friend. He leaned over the edge of the boat, watching the creature move with grace, its fins slicing through the water like a dance. The dolphin paused for a moment, looking directly at John, and then began to swim in the opposite direction, as if inviting him to follow. John hesitated for a moment, but something inside him told him to trust. He started the boat's engine and began to follow the dolphin, which swam at a steady pace, leading him to an unknown area. As they advanced, the scenery around them began to change. The waters grew rougher, and the waves started to rise, as if the ocean was testing his resolve. John held the wheel firmly, keeping his eyes fixed on the dolphin ahead, which seemed unfazed by the adverse conditions. He knew he was being led to an important place, a place the dolphin wanted him to see. After what felt like hours of sailing, they reached an area where the waves were even higher, and the sky, once clear, was now covered in dark clouds. John felt a growing apprehension in his chest, but he continued to follow the dolphin, determined to discover where this was leading him. Finally, the dolphin stopped near a rocky formation, rising out of the turbulent waters like an ancient fortress. John anchored the boat near the rocks and cautiously climbed onto the formation. He looked around, trying to understand why the dolphin had brought him there. It was then that he saw, among the stones, something that left him speechless. A small plaque, almost hidden by algae and erosion, with an inscription that read, "In memory of Henry, whom the sea now guards." John's legs almost gave way beneath him. The plaque was a memorial for his brother, placed there by the family years ago after the accident. Henry had requested to be cremated and have his ashes scattered at sea, and that spot was chosen by the family as a symbol of his connection to the ocean. But John had never known about the plaque. At the time, he was so engulfed in his grief and guilt that he couldn't participate in the ceremony, and the family, respecting his mourning, never pressured him to visit the site. Now, standing before that memorial, John felt a wave of overwhelming emotions. He fell to his knees, the sound of the waves and wind mingling with his silent tears. Everything made sense now. The dolphin, that majestic and mysterious being, had guided him to the place where he needed to be, to the place where he could finally make peace with his brother and with himself. John touched the plaque gently, feeling the rough surface under his fingers, as if he were touching Henry's very soul. He closed his eyes and, in a whisper, asked for forgiveness. Not just from Henry, but from himself, for all the years he spent torturing himself with guilt and regret. He knew that Henry would forgive him, just as he needed to forgive himself. In that moment of redemption, John felt an indescribable peace wash over him. He stood up and looked at the dolphin, still in the water, watching him with those eyes that seemed to understand everything. John smiled, a true smile, full of gratitude. He knew that the dolphin wasn't just a physical savior but also a spiritual guide, a messenger of the ocean, and perhaps of Henry himself. With a lighter heart and a clearer mind than ever before, John returned to the boat, ready to return to his life. But this time, he wasn't running from anything. He was heading toward the future, a future where he could live in peace, knowing he had found a way to reconcile with the past. The dolphin swam alongside the boat for a while, as if ensuring that John was truly okay. And when it finally swam away, diving into the depths of the ocean, John waved goodbye, knowing that wherever it went, that dolphin would always be a part of his story, just as Henry would always be a part of his life. And so, the turning point of the story concludes, with John finding not just the answer he sought, but also the healing he needed to move forward. In the next segment, we'll explore how he begins to overcome the challenges and how this experience transforms his and his family's lives for the better. After that revealing journey to Henry's memorial, John felt that something had profoundly changed within him. Upon returning home, he felt lighter, as if he had left behind a weight he had carried for years. Although the pain of losing his brother would never fully disappear, he had finally found a way to accept what had happened and move forward. Maria noticed the change immediately. John started smiling more often, and his eyes, once clouded by sadness, now shone with a renewed determination. He began to open up more, sharing his emotions and the discoveries he had made. Maria listened with patience and love, offering the support he so desperately needed. To her, seeing John open up was a blessing, as she finally felt like she was getting back the man she had fallen in love with. John also began spending more time with Tommy, taking him out on the sea and teaching him about the beauty and mysteries of the ocean. They spent hours together, sailing the calm waters of Clearwater, with John telling stories about Henry and the dolphin that saved him. Tommy, his eyes shining with admiration, listened intently, absorbing every word and feeling an even stronger connection with his father. Gradually, John realized that the sea, which had once been a refuge of pain, was now becoming a place of healing and renewal. He started getting involved in community activities, using his boat to help clean the beaches and contribute to marine conservation. That dolphin had given him a new perspective, and he wanted to give back in some way, taking care of the ocean he loved so much. Over time, John became a well-known and respected figure in the community. His story of being rescued by the dolphin spread throughout the town, inspiring others to value life and the nature around them more. People began to see him not just as the town mechanic, but as an example of resilience and overcoming. He never sought recognition, but the affection and respect he received from neighbors and friends filled him with gratitude. But John's transformation didn't just affect his personal life. He also decided to resume an old project that he had abandoned after Henry's death: the construction of a small boat that the two brothers had dreamed of completing together. For years, the unfinished hull had sat in the shed, covered in dust, a silent reminder of the pain. Now, with a new sense of purpose, John decided to finish the boat, dedicating it to the memory of his brother. Maria and Tommy helped him with the task, and every hammer blow, every piece of wood placed, was like an act of healing. As they worked together, John shared memories of Henry, turning the process into an experience of unity and family love. When they finally finished, the boat was a masterpiece of dedication and care, something John knew Henry would have been proud of. On the day the boat was launched into the sea, John invited friends and family for a small ceremony. He dedicated the boat to Henry, naming it Hope, symbolizing everything he had found along that journey: hope, redemption, and a new chance to live fully. As he watched the boat glide smoothly through the water, John felt an inner peace he had never experienced before. The dolphin, which had appeared so many times in his moments of crisis, was not present that day, but John knew that, in some way, the presence of that being was still with him, guiding and protecting him. To him, the dolphin represented more than just a physical savior. It was a symbol of the connection between the past and the present, a reminder that even in the worst storms, there is always a path to light. As months turned into years, John and his family began creating new memories, traveling on Hope and exploring places they had always dreamed of visiting. Each journey was a new adventure, and every sunset at sea was a reminder of everything they had overcome together. John taught Tommy how to sail, passing on the knowledge and love for the ocean that Henry had shared with him. To Tommy, these lessons were precious, and he felt closer to his father than ever. Maria, seeing the transformation in John, felt immensely grateful. She knew the journey hadn't been easy, but she also knew they had found a way to overcome the difficulties together. To her, the love they shared had grown stronger, and the family was more united than ever. And so, time passed, and John, Maria, and Tommy's lives moved forward, now marked by a deep connection to the ocean and the lessons they had learned. The boat, Hope, became a symbol in the town, and the story of John, his brother Henry, and the dolphin continued to inspire those who heard it. In the end, John knew that although life is full of challenges and pain, there is always a way to find peace and redemption. He had been given a second chance, and he was determined to live each day with gratitude and love. And, in some way, he knew that Henry and the dolphin would always be with him, guiding him through the waters of life. As months turned into years, John and his family continued to thrive, marked by a deep sense of purpose and gratitude. The boat, Hope, had become not just a symbol of redemption, but also of how love, faith, and determination can transform even the most painful experiences into something beautiful and meaningful. John, now older and wiser, often found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought him to this point. Sitting on the deck of Hope, with the calm sea around him and the golden sun setting on the horizon, he felt a peace he never imagined possible. That feeling of being lost, which once consumed him, had been replaced by a deep understanding of life and his own inner strength. He often thought about the dolphin that had appeared in his moment of greatest need. To him, that creature was not just a marine animal but a true messenger, sent to remind him of the beauty and grace that still existed in the world, even amidst suffering. John never saw the dolphin again, but he felt its presence in every gentle breeze that touched his face, in every wave that softly broke on the shore, and, most importantly, in every moment of happiness shared with his family. Time had also brought a new perspective on Henry's loss. Though the pain of his brother's absence would never fully fade, John finally found a way to honor his memory, not with sadness, but with joy and celebration of the life Henry had lived. He shared Henry's stories with Tommy, teaching him about courage, love, and the importance of living each day as if it were the last. These lessons shaped young Tommy, who grew up with a deep respect for nature and the legacy of his uncle. Maria, for her part, found renewed strength in her relationship with John. Together, they had faced storms and calms, emerging on the other side stronger and more united. To Maria, the journey John had taken was proof that true love can heal even the deepest wounds, and she knew that together, they could face any challenge life presented. On a sunny afternoon, many years after the incident that changed their lives, the family decided to make a special trip to a place that had become sacred to them, the rocky formation where Henry's memorial was located. John, Maria, and Tommy, now a young adult, sailed together to the spot, with hope gliding smoothly over the crystal-clear waters. When they arrived, John anchored the boat and, with his family by his side, walked to the plaque that marked the place where Henry's ashes were scattered. They spent some time there in silence, each lost in their own reflections. For John, that place, which once symbolized pain, was now a symbol of hope, love, and renewal. After a while, John turned to his family, smiling. "This place," he said, his voice calm and serene, "reminds us of everything we've overcome. It reminds us of Henry, of the Dolphin, and of how life always gives us a second chance if we're willing to take it." Maria and Tommy nodded, feeling the weight of John's words. They knew that while the past was something they would always carry with them, the future was full of possibilities, and they were ready to embrace them together. Before they left, John knelt by the memorial and, in a gesture of farewell and gratitude, touched the plaque one last time. He no longer needed to ask for forgiveness or seek answers. He had already found what he was looking for. Now it was time to move forward, to live fully, and to honor Henry's legacy in a way that brought joy and peace to everyone around him. As he stood up, the familiar sound of a dolphin clicking filled the air. John looked out at the ocean and, in the distance, saw the shadow of a dolphin gracefully leaping out of the water. He smiled, his eyes brimming with tears of gratitude. It was as if the dolphin was there, watching, reminding him that somewhere in the depths of the sea, Henry was also at peace. With a light heart and a soul full of peace, John returned to the boat, holding Maria and Tommy's hands. They prepared for the journey back, ready to continue their lives, knowing that wherever they went, the ocean would always be there to remind them of everything they had overcome. And so, the story of John, the dolphin, and Henry's legacy came to an end, leaving a powerful message for all who heard it. That even in the roughest waters of life, there is always hope, there is always light, and there is always a way to find peace and love if we have the courage to keep moving forward.